Hello, this is Greg Allison with Galactic Greg's coming to you on 31 May 22. Time on deck is 2300 hours Central Daylight Time. Well, friends, I got special guest tonight, Leena Bokil, and she is an Indian space researcher, engineer, and space advocate. This lady is a powerhouse for promoting space technology, popularizing it, enthusing young people to follow space careers. She's been very much involved in sensor development and other things herself, working with the space program in India. And I think this is very important because I see India as becoming a space powerhouse. I see in the future India becoming a superpower on Earth because they have the demographics in their favor right now. They have the young population. They're a country that's just getting really engaged in the stuff. Their economy is growing. They've got a bright people there. I am very enthusiastic for the future of India. And so I want to welcome everybody to Leena. Leena, tell us, what is it that got you interested in space?
Namaste from India. Hi, Greg. It's great to be here on this platform and share my experience and my thoughts about space, and especially in India, it's an exciting time. The question you asked me is what brought me in this field. So as a kid, when I was growing up, my dad was telling me the stories, the tales of astronomy, ancient Indian astronomy and cosmology, and then the space research that was going on. Like we had heard about Yuri Gagarin and Valentina Tereshkova, and of course NASA's venture, and especially the Apollo 11 missions, and then the ones that followed. So as a kid, I was so enthusiastic, and I had heard these names, and for me, they are like gods, like they are superhumans, these astronauts, cosmonauts. And so I grew up with this, the background. And my dad, he is an engineer. He's a mechanical electrical engineer, and he had a foundry. When I was growing up, he would take me there, and we had this background, everything and anything related to science and technology. So we are a 3-generation family of technocrats. So for me, there was no other field. I chose science and technology. And being a left-hander, I think I was told I have a flair for math and science, and I always scored 100 on 100, and I was a scholar. I have been a scholar throughout, and physics, my forte. So there was no other field, and I chose engineering, and I got selected. I got a merit seat, and throughout my education has been with merits and high grades. So in academics, I was shining bright like a star. So my dad said, yes, you should be an astronomer, astrophysicist. So I had this dream to go to the stars, or at least watch or look at the stars. And as a kid, I grew up watching Star Trek and even Cosmos by Carl Sagan. And this was my turning point. And then I thought, yes, there are branches like mechanical, electrical, civil engineering, the mainstreams. But then I must go into this field, space engineering and technology. So that was somewhere back of my mind. And then after I became an engineer, I got into electronica, a small scale industry. And then at that time, I didn't see space happening though. And then I worked hard, of course, for a few years in R&D. And then I got into teaching field, the academics part. And yes, I knew that research is something that is my cup of tea, because I'm a perpetual student. I mean, every day I read books, I read about space, about cosmology, about anything and everything about science, actually. Then, I mean, I got to do this opportunity to do a TIFAC research, that is for Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. That was on sensors and transducers. So I was fascinated by this field from the very beginning. And then, yes, my dream came true when I got to visit ISRO, that is Indian Space Research Organization. As a young girl, I went to Bangalore and I visited this our premier space agency of India. And then I said, yes, even if I cannot work with ISRO as an employee, as a scientist or engineer, but from the outside, I'll see if I can do something, contribute to this field, you know. And then, yes, for some years there was struggle, and I mean, I was not getting the grip of my career, and I was working hard. Of course, I've always been like this. But then, yes, I got this opportunity to teach avionics and principles of flight and anything and everything to do with airplanes. So, in an aeronautical institute, I was training, I was teaching these subjects. And that was when I literally and figuratively, like I could see myself flying, so from ground level, 0 kilometers from Earth, that is simple lab, a low profile work that I was doing earlier, and then into the airplanes and 35 to 40,000 feet I flew. And I got recognition. I was interested in this field. I keep teaching even today. I keep teaching these subjects. So I'm in touch with almost all of these subjects. And then that was when I got to know about this NASA Honeywell Space Educators Program. Well, I applied for it and I got selected. And very few Indian teachers get into it, I'm told. And you must be aware, it's in the US Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Right
So
here. This is where I live, and I've been there many times. So
I'm sure.
you meet the directors of the Space and Rocket Center, including the people that founded it. Uh, so,
Mhm.
and like a lot of people that have taught there. So, it's an awesome place. I've actually went to an adult space camp there myself, and
Yeah.
got to practice as a shuttle pilot. And of all the crews, I was the only one that managed to land it.
Oh, wow, nice to know that. Yes, so that was when I was teaching in avionics, the Aeronautical Institute. I got selected here, and I attended the space camp, and it's for STEM educators, for especially for the educators who are looking forward to teaching space and popularizing space science. So I came back to India, and wow, there was boom. This you know, the big leap, giant leap in my career, because it took place at NASA, and I got all the honor, and people felicitated me because wow, you got trained at NASA and you are back and you're doing this work for our country. So yes, after that, ever since NASA happened, I mean, I started popularizing science in general and space science and technology in particular. So I keep teaching students, I keep popularizing space and cosmology, and especially in India. I mean, you must be aware that there are villages, the remote places. There are places where even a formal education, a school is also not in place, and there are the kids need to travel a lot and go to schools. So science is very far-fetched. Going to school itself and education, the basic education and such facilities are missing, and sometimes they are very deprived of that. So what I do is, in big places like Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, and the mega cities of India, yes, in the urban areas there's everything, like we have resources, we do have resource persons like me, but then I reach out to the small towns and to the villages, because India is huge. It's a vast peninsula, and you must be aware the Indian subcontinent is like from north to south, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and east to west. It's like Bengal to Gujarat, and we are in west of India. So I do have a lot of scope now, because there was a time in my career when there was no downfall, or the flip side was that there was no much scope. But now people are much more aware, and they come to me for education, and I mentor and groom students, and they come and tell me that I'm aspiring to be a scientist or a space engineer or an astronaut or a physicist, astrophysicist, so on and so forth. But there was a time when I did not have much work on my table, but well, I was getting a lot of awards and rewards, actually, a lot of recognition. And why that happened was, okay, I was doing low profile work in India, but what happens is the Western Space Agency, a premier space agency, NASA, when they hear the term, this is, my designation, NASA Honeywell Space Educator, then it makes all the difference. So there was no looking back after I got trained at NASA. And what has happened meanwhile, out here in India is there have been many space missions in the past dozen years, especially. So the picture changed. And then today I have a lot of work. I have a lot of projects, people coming to me for guidance and mentoring. So that is the scenario at the present
Oh, well, a
moment.
lot of people don't know India has attempted a lunar landing in 2019, and that was a major feat. It didn't quite land as planned and hoped, but space is tough. That was a very meritorious first effort. That was we've crashed a lot of stuff here in the United States, and so have the Russians. So it's and Israel tried and they crashed too. So it's tough to do. But I really applaud what you guys have done. I applaud the enthusiasm for space I have seen from Indian students and engineers and people I've worked with in the past. And I've got to say, as having been an officer in the National Space Society, I've mentioned to you previously, we had a space colony design contest, and a lot of kids came from India and participated in that. And they were very enthusiastic and very hopeful for space, and that enthusiasm just warmed my heart. I knew India had a bright future. India is aspiring to have manned space flight people, and I'm expecting this to come up soon. And with other advents in space, like the kind of technologies Elon Musk is developing to lower space costs, I can imagine that the opportunities for countries like India will be enormous in the upcoming years. So Leena has a presentation she wants to give us about the future of India and space, India, the future space powerhouse. And that's exactly what I see. Do you want to start in that presentation now?
Oh, yes, I'll begin it. Just a moment.
And while you're starting that, I might add, you do have some maybe some challenges with your infrastructure and your education system. I think the primary thing to make it work for the students, though, is to get them so enthused, so hungry for this bright future that they will aspire to find that education and get it themselves. It's not really so much the system that's out there, it's what's in your heart. It's the fire that burns within you. If you light those fires in the kids, they'll get it. And I think that's what you're doing from what I see. And with your brightness and enthusiasm, I see you getting a lot of brilliant new stars lit in space and there in India.
Exactly. Okay. Now I think I can share.
You have to hit the share. It should be at the
Yes.
bottom.
Yeah.
Then you should be able to, there we go. It says your screen sharing. I see your total screen, so just increase the PowerPoint. There you go.
Can you see this?
I can
screen?
see that.
Okay. In the recent times, I came up with my own startup. It's a space academy, one of its kind in India. So Astroedu Pune, I coined this name, and today it comes under a small scale setup. And Astroedu Pune, under this, we have trained many students and groomed, mentored some of the future space engineers and scientists, astronauts. So can you see the screen?
Very much, very good. It's looking good. You're able to click through. So
Okay.
that's always
Yes.
a challenge. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that in PowerPoint on Zoom myself.
Yes.
So you're doing good.
Okay, great. Yeah. So space has always fascinated me as much as it has fascinated the entire mankind. And I'm very much inspired by these words. Imagine in 500 BC, the great Greek philosopher, Socrates said, man must rise above and beyond Earth's atmosphere, and only thus will he know more about the universe in which he lives. Right? So just doing astronomy, sitting here on Earth's surface and watching stars, doing stargazing uh, through telescopes and all this stuff has fascinated me. But then what is important is going up there, rising above Earth's atmosphere and escaping from the chains of gravity and then going there. That is really fascinating and out of this world experience. And as a kid, my dad told me about Sputnik and how Russia put the first man-made or artificial satellite, and then NASA came up with the Apollo missions. And I was fascinated by these three men. I mean, for me, like they are heroes. And I had the honor of meeting or seeing them all, and especially Buzz Aldrin during National Space Society's ISDC meeting in the international conference at Orlando, Florida.
Which
So
year,
for me, like
which year were you in Orlando?
2009,
2009?
yep,
Yeah, I would have been there. I was there.
May 2009. Yes, I was very much there.
I was there. It was one of my next to last ISDC, but yeah, I was there. So yeah,
Oh,
Buzz
great.
has been very supportive of our organization. He's called my house twice. He's a great guy.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Well, I was the chairman of the executive committee. I was basically ran the society for about a year and a half, and have been chairman of the posse
Wow.
for 15 years.
Oh, nice to know that. Well, yes. And interestingly, when I got selected at the NASA Honeywell Space Camp, in the application, I had to write an essay, uh, just a few hundred and 200 words. And we had to make an impact and show the jury members that I am so fascinated and passionate about space. So, I poured in everything. And yes, I had quoted Neil Armstrong's words. When he landed on moon, and he said, this is a small step for man and a giant leap for mankind. And yes, I had quoted this, and it made all the difference, I'm sure. And I got selected for that particular training. But yes, this is really historic. I must tell you how inspiring this is. Even when I show such presentations and pictures to the kids, they are so fascinated by this. Imagine no one else had been there, and free like 84,000 kilometers, a destination that man always looked forward to, and they did it. So in the history of mankind, this was a real giant leap, I'm sure. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So this was when I met Buzz Aldrin, and really inspiring people I have met, the real life heroes, I call them. Yes. And I keep telling my students that it's not just the technology and science demonstration, but it is to do experiments. It is all about science and technology, and to find if we can colonize moon eventually. And the experiments that they did, and they brought back lunar soil and rocks. And I do have one space rock with me. I do have a miniature museum too. Well, yeah, this was my training at the space camp at Huntsville. And it was like, we know it's like a precursor to astronaut training. And a teacher, imagine how he or she gets inspired by this kind of work. It is out of this world experience, like as good as going into space, though it's a simulation. And the lunar surface, microgravity training. And this is my friend Michelle. I photographed her. So multi-axis chair.
I used to have one of those rings. I sold it though.
Wow, some sound. Okay, yeah. So me doing with Jody, my teammate, this simulation and rescue operation
Yeah.
splashdown. Yeah, so I tell the students that how the context, when it comes to real time, real space experience. So the astronaut is strange, and through multifarious activities and so many, training processes, and they go through all this, and then they get to really fly, go into space. So the astronauts, according to me, they are the real life heroes. So whenever I meet them, I'm sure I'm so inspired. And so also it's the contagious, infectious thing, I share this experience with the students. So coming back to India and sharing my knowledge, my experience, and this information made me popular figure out here.
Very
Okay,
good.
so
That's one of the nodes on the International Space Station, probably node 2.
true.
I imagine
Yes.
it's node 2 because it looks like the shuttle is docked there. Yeah, I designed the electrical and data system layouts for a lot of the stuff inside of that one in node 2 and node 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yes. So that was about NASA, my training, and how I got into this field. So it kind of catapulted, and my career, went really in a big way. I made this leap, and then there was no looking back, because some say sky is the limit, but for me, like when I talk about space, I say space is infinite, and so are the opportunities. And there's no lower limit, there's no upper limit, there's no left or right. It's a huge expanse, and there are so many opportunities. So coming back to India, after I came back, I have been talking about moon, Mars, about going beyond. And in a small way, in a tiny way, my contribution here to the education especially is this field, that I keep inspiring kids. So in an auditorium of 500 or 1,000 students, if I can inspire just one or two kids or even five of them, it's enough. My job is done, because we know this field is a rare one. Everyone doesn't pick space science. Today, there are like job opportunities for IT computers, 9 to 5 job, and you earn so well. And students go, the youngsters go for that field. They choose the other fields of engineering as well. But space, well, space and astronomy, cosmology, the most interested kids, those who come here, they will stay here forever. Like, we need to have perseverance, right? Okay, so coming back to this part of the space agency, this Indian subcontinent, we all know Dr. Vikram Sarabhai was the founding father of Indian space research program, and he has been one of India's greatest space scientists, and not just an Indian scientist, but a scientific leader, I must say. And the credit of India's crucial position and this impact and success in the field of space research goes to him. And well, he inspired so many other ISRO scientists, and not only them, and me as well. Though I never met him. I was born late. I'm sure if I had been there with him, I would have gone and worked at Ahmedabad, ISRO's Satellite Application Center. By the way, I got an opportunity to visit that as well. So I've visited quite a few of Indian Space Research Organization centers, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Kerala, that is South India as well. Yes, I decided to join this field of space engineering, because as a kid, I heard stories about Dr. Sarabhai. My dad told me about Dr. Homi Bhabha and Dr. Sarabhai. So this is Dr. Homi Bhabha. He was not only a friend, but like an elder brother to Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. So by the way, the Indian nuclear program was set up by none other than Dr. Homi Bhabha. And at IISC, Indian Institute of Space Science, uh, they met, and then this partnership, their friendship flourished. And this is how Dr. Sarabhai was inspired by Dr. Homi Bhabha, and they did this survey, and they decided that a village in Kerala, that is South India, Thumba, was selected as the equatorial launch facility. And this is Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the founder of Indian Space Research Organization, in Hindi, ISRO. Yes. So Dr. Sarabhai, when he set up the ISRO center in Kerala first and then in Bangalore, he told the other space scientists, and he convinced the Indian Congress as well, that we are not going to compete with the other superpowers. We all know India is a developing country. So we will do our best. And what we wish to do is make a difference to our society. And because India is an agricultural country, we need to apply technology here and improve the lifestyle of people. The farmers need to have technology and they must be equipped. They need to apply all this. And we want to make lives better. And so also telecommunications and tele-education, telemetry, telemedicine as well, to get medical expertise and services in the remotest villages in India. So to improve the lifestyle of Indians, for that it was set up. And we do not want to, we do not need to compete with the Western countries. That was what he was saying, always saying. And we do not even want to be in the top league. But yes, in our own way, we will be the best and will be second to none. He made it very clear. So he was such an eminent scientific leader, Dr. Sarabhai. And interestingly, Dr. Sir C.V. Raman, India's first Nobel laureate, scientist Nobel laureate. So C.V. Raman was his mentor. And Dr. Sarabhai got all the right advice and, guidance from Sir C.V. Raman. And Dr. Sarabhai, by the way, he studied at Cambridge, but then eventually he came back to settle in India, and he did this huge contribution to India. And today, India is I won't say a superpower, but we are going on the way. The roadmap is quite clear and it's imminent. So what makes India so advanced is the space technology and also nuclear technology. These two technologies, they are the deciding technologies. They decide whether a country is advanced or not progressing. So India has, nuclear as well as space power. So we are doing the right things at the right time, and in a big way, we are trying to get there. This was, by the way, India's first modest, satellite, Aryabhatta, named after ancient Indian mathematician. And interestingly, here this is Dr. Sarabhai. He is being, uh, he's with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, young engineer, space engineer, and something he's describing, but look at the interest. And Dr. Sarabhai had this charisma, and he was so learned, but he also was so down to earth. He would take in inputs from the young scientists and engineers. And back then, a young scientist, a flourishing space engineer, Dr. Abdul Kalam, sir, he was describing something about the rocket components here. So two men of science, the Indian greatest scientists in one frame here, we have captured. And yes, the entire world knows we did such a modest, humble beginning from a small village in.
Only
Yes,
India has had a space engineer become president of the country.
exactly. Yes,
It just
yes,
shows. And
yes,
also, India has a Department of Space in the government, an entire cabinet level Department of Space. I wish we had that in the United States. So, yeah, I'm really enthused for what you guys are doing. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a good point you mentioned, because I was about to come to that. Here is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, sir, on a bicycle. And here we see a bullock cart. So this is how it literally and figuratively we have come from a small, modest beginning to what India is today. This is Sriharikota. This is ISRO's launching pad, the same as what Kennedy Space Center is for NASA. So it's at the east, the Bay of Bengal side, and from it is from here that we do all the huge launches now. And yes, initially India had to take the help of Russia, and we were banking on them for technology, for the technical expertise and know-how as well. And the launching took place from French Guiana. But today, India is full-fledged space power, or we have our own spaceport. We do all indigenous as far as possible. We do all the even the tiniest components to the biggest, huge components. Everything we try to do homemade or homegrown technology. And by the way, now at this point of time, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi sir, he emphasizes on make in India, that is Sampurna Swadeshi, or we want to see India as Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is the term that is coined. That is, we want to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. And not only that, not only space, but in all sectors, actually. So India has come a long way from a modest beginning, from a small village in Tumba. By the way, there was a church in Tumba that was the first space science laboratory. And Dr. Sarabhai with his team, Dr. APJ sir, Dr. U.R. Rao, and the initial, space scientists, they worked in a tiny, modest laboratory, not even a full-fledged, well-equipped one. And they were put up at the bishop's quarters, and the entire village was relocated. The citizens, the villagers, they just gave it to Dr. Sarabhai, and they said, anything that you do, sir, for our country, we are willing to give up our town. And then they were relocated at another place.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That's a story. That's a story.
yes, that's a very inspirational story. And what I do as a space educator is we take kids
I'd like to
to
add
this space.
something to you. I'd like to add something to your strategy of being self-sufficient. That
Yes.
is the best way to go. We're living in a day and age where supply chains are of international trade are being ruptured, and when you're relying on pieces and parts from all over the place, that's problematic. It gets to be a real problem for developing your systems, especially if they're high-tech systems. So the more reliant you are, the better off you are strategically, tactically, but moreover, cost-wise, because if you have parts subcontracted out all over the place, there's a whole lot of other profit centers and organizational things you have to deal with. You have to deal with the interfaces of getting that stuff built outside your company into parts and systems that goes inside your company. And that's not always straightforward. And this is one of the reasons Elon Musk is soared ahead so far with SpaceX. He does everything he can in-house. And so that is a very good strategy. I know just from my own personal dealings that when you've got to spread things all over the country, it's tough. That's why NASA is so challenged. That's why our stuff is so expensive, because we literally spread it all over the country and in the world at that. So that makes it very, very expensive. So you've got a really good approach with doing that. And the funny thing is, I might add that actually I was involved in something called Lunar Treks, which is a Lunar Google X Prize team that was, we went to Russia to look into procuring the lunar globe for use in our X Prize competition. But India at the time had a deal with Russia to use that system. And the deal with Russia they had is they had to have first use of it. And if it's first used by a government entity, then it violated the rules of the X Prize and we couldn't use it. So we backed off. But then India turned around and developed in-house. They didn't use lunar globe after all. But you did make the right decision to do that. So I applaud that. Yes. It kind of knocked us out of the competition at the time, but you did the right thing.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Yes. So our small projects were like the satellite that I showed earlier, and INSAT, that is Indian National Satellite System. In these projects, we had the television and INSAT program, and I had the honor and privilege to meet Dr. Radhakrishnan sir, former chairman ISRO, and he was the one who brought in Chandrayaan-1, that is the moon impact probe, the moon mission that changed the entire picture, because ISRO, after that, we have come a long way, and really we came on the world map, and it is now that we are doing such great programs, because earlier only INSAT and then the Indian remote sensing missions were there, but this changed. This was the game changer. This changed the entire picture. The moon impact probe was India's maiden moon mission, that is Chandrayaan. And then the second one, we did this Mangalyaan mission, that is Mars. Yan. Yan is nothing but the spacecraft. Mangal is Mars. So this was India's maiden, Martian or interplanetary mission. So Chandrayaan, that is this one. Sorry. Yeah, Moon Impact Probe was India's maiden moon project or moon probe, and Mangalyaan was interplanetary maiden, and we did successful missions in our first go, in the first attempt itself. So that is really commendable, and the world looks up to ISRO for this, because we have not done trial and errors. We have done it right in the first go, and trust me, this was done at such a low budget. People compare, and the analogy is with a Hollywood film budget, movies like Gravity, Interstellar, and Avengers, and comparison with Mangalyaan's this Indian missions, Martian missions budget. So it is at this shoestring budget that India does missions, and I was on television, and here Mr. Narendra Modi sir was in the control room, and they were watching the insertion, actually, the orbiter, that is Mars orbiter mission, MOM. It got into the Martian atmosphere, and yes, boom, we got success. So bingo, what India has done is we nailed it in the first attempt. And the man behind the Martian mission is this former ISRO chairman, Dr. Kiran Kumar sir. So like I said, I have been inspired by these men of science and these stalwarts that I got the honor and have been singularly lucky, I must say, to meet these great men. Well, this was the past. And of course, Chandrayaan 2 took place a few years ago. It was his brainchild, and it was during his tenure that, and then Dr. K. Sivan sir, they did the Indian second Chandrayaan, that is second moon mission. And Chandrayaan 2, what it did was it put the orbiter into moon's orbit, and the orbiter is still in place. It is doing its job, its task, and the 7 years lifespan. It's conducting successful, experiments. But what we could not do successfully, though, was the landing of Vikram lander. That did not happen successfully. So now what Chandrayaan 3 is going to do is in August 2022, this year, and 12th August happens to be Dr. Vikram Sarabhai's birth anniversary. So I'm sure somewhere near that time, the timeline is August, at least for now. So this mission called Chandrayaan 3 will put the lander, Vikram lander, on south pole of moon, and will try to attempt to do the south pole's soft landing. And it was not achieved well by Chandrayaan 2. So they have taken some corrective measures, and the orbiter is in place. So we need not do the orbiter again. So what we will do is India will send now, ISRO will put up this Vikram lander on the south pole of moon. And well, the relevance is now we are all looking at the south pole of moon to study the regolith, to study if we can colonize moon in the future missions. And I'm sure NASA Artemis will take or will put the next man and the first woman on moon. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, the south pole of the moon has the largest crater on the moon that happens to be shielded
Yes,
from the sun and is believed to have vast amounts of water ice within.
exactly.
And it's got mountains and peaks around there that are in the sunlight forever. So you get the permanent shadow and the permanent sun. So you can have great solar power and resources. So that's probably the prime real estate of the moon is at the South Pole. So that's a place to be going. So
Exactly.
it's the Shackelford crater there, Shackleton.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing you're doing that. And it's funny that I mentioned the lunar globe and that you did your own indigenous program because it segued right into what you were going to talk about next, which is the Chandrayaan 2, which was the one
Yes.
that was the follow-on to what we were looking at the time. And now you're into Chandrayaan 3. And so you're showing that India is going to stick with it and keep going. And that's exactly what I expect.
Yes. And this is in during 2022. I'm sure it will take place. And a few missions got postponed due to the delay. Like pandemic affected the entire globe, and some of our missions didn't stop though. But there was a delay in Chandrayaan 3, so we are going to put it up in 2022 August this year. And yes, like you mentioned earlier, this will be India's maiden Gaganyaan mission. It will put astronauts in space, and it is India's indigenous space program, and it's a space station first that India will launch. And we are not a part of the ISS, the International Space Station, though. But what we want to do is this will change the entire picture, the way our research has been taking place, and work is under progress. And these astronauts, they are the Indian Air Force pilots, and they are being trained they were trained in Russia, part of the initial training, but otherwise it's totally indigenous or Swadesi, like Modi ji likes to call it. So this is something we are all waiting for. It's the most awaited mission of ISRO. So again, there was a delay in this, though the timeline said it was 2022, and now it might be 2024 or 2025. So first, Gaganyaan 1 will be only just unmanned spacecraft or a space station, and then 3 astronauts, the Indian Air Force pilots, will be selected, and they will make up this 3-member crew, and they'll spend as many as 7 days in space. So India's Gaganyaan, Gagan means sky, or Yan, and Yan means spacecraft. So all derived from Sanskrit, you know. So that is India's most ambitious program, and we are all waiting for that. And then Mangalyaan 2, that is Mars orbiter mission second part. This will take place again in the years to come, 2025 or something. And now this interesting part, just like Parker Solar Probe, India's Aditya L1 mission will be a space probe. This will be a solar probe, and it will go close to the sun's, outermost corona.
Will it be in a Lagrange point 1?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, so Aditya means sun in Sanskrit. So the source is always, it comes from Sanskrit. So Aditya L1 mission will be launched to study sun's corona, visible and near infrared radiation, chromosphere, sun's photosphere, solar winds and solar flares, to study solar emission, coronal mass ejection. And it is science experiment most predominantly, and it will carry out round the clock imaging of sun that India has never done before. So we are waiting for this mission too, and it might take place in 2025, 2026. So, like I said, the next 5 to 10 years, this decade is going to be very crucial, very important for India, for ISRO. And then there is Shukrayaan. Shukra is Venus. So Venus spacecraft, and it will be India's first mission to Venus, because we went to Mars, but we have never gone to the closest planet, that is Venus. And this will be somewhere 2026 or 2027 approximately. And the timeline, like I said, things changed, the dynamic, this took place because of pandemic. And what India has done is, now some missions had to be put on hold or some were postponed, but we are back with a bang. And I'm sure we will do this mission in the next 4 to 5 years, I'm sure. So this is to study Venus, our neighboring planet, and it will be ISRO's first mission to study Venus. And I read that NASA is coming up with a cloud city, Venus cloud city. So this is again, this is going to be an orbiter, and of course, we are not planning to land on the surface. So this will be in the orbit, and then yes, what India has done is, in the last few years, especially, ISRO has been asking and inviting private ventures to actively participate in our space missions and utilize the resources of our country. Like, for example, if an institution or a university is making a tiny nano or femto satellite, NASA, just like what NASA does, ISRO is also inviting students and the startups, the fresh, space missions ventures, to join them, and we could put the spacecraft, their payload, into space. The rockets of ISRO, PSLV or GSLV, they will put up the tiny, satellites into space. So we are inviting and including. It was not so back then in the 1980s and 90s. Though after the turn of the century, millennium, India has been doing great missions in space, and there has been a revolution actually. So now the scenario is Antrix, that is India's, ISRO's profit making wing, Antrix, is inviting the other nations as well to put up their satellites. So our rockets, that is the PSLV, SSLV, Polar Space Launch Vehicle, GSLV, SSLV, our rockets will put up their spacecraft into space. So that was not done earlier, and India is now all inclusive, and the strategies have changed since the last couple of years, especially since 2017 or 18. Exactly, that is when we started doing. ISRO started inviting private ventures, and precisely this is why today we have many startups in Bangalore, South India, in Chennai, in Hyderabad, in Pune, and Mumbai, and this is why youngsters are coming up. So, what if you cannot join the space agency, ISRO, from the inside? You can participate in the space missions from the outside. And the suppliers now, and because it is Make in India movement now, we are trying hard to make it as much indigenous as possible. So, this changed the entire scenario. So my students, by the way, I train them into astronomy, astrophysics, and stargazing. Uh, um, in Astroedu Pune, we conduct these activities, and what we do is we inspire the kids to join and create awareness about cosmos, about space, and all this stuff, the far-fetched stuff. And we do have a team of youngsters, Kiran, Rugved, Rachel. By the way, Rachel is last year's Dr. Kalpana Chawla, international scholar at the ISU, International Space University in Strasbourg, France. So at our farmhouse plot, we go there and do stargazing, and I create awareness through Astroedu Pune activities, creating awareness and, like I said, conducting workshops, programs, space exhibitions, talks, and competitions, etc., to create awareness about space. And this is my talk. I do it to popularize space in general. And also, of course, there are students who are joining the this guy. He has joined University of Florida for his master's MS. And this girl, Rachel, she will be going very soon, joining Penn State University. And they came up with this project, the you know autogyro, it's called autogyro AG, and it's an award-winning project.
Is that for atmospheric reentry?
No, this is like what they did was
The autogyros you
it's
fly
like,
on?
yeah, it looks like a drone, but it is like for
Okay.
a flood disaster management. That is what
I know what kind
the
of
kids.
autogyro it is. Okay, never mind.
Yes,
I know what it
yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's like,
So
yeah, got it.
yes, my students, they assist me in conducting space-related, uh, workshops and lectures and talks. So he is Padma Shri Dr. Pramod Kale sir, former ISRO scientist, and he lives in Pune. He is 80 plus and he's very active. He's very keen to share his knowledge and expertise with the kids. And we bring in experts and scientists and engineers to give talks, to deliver lectures at our Astroedu Pune, you know. And yeah, when I was at NASA Ames Research Center, I met Dr. Tom. He was Dr. Kalpana Chawla's colleague. They worked together here at Ames Research Center. And yes, when I was there at the SETI conference, I had met Dr. Seth Shostak,
Mhm.
cosmologist, astronomer, astrophysicist, and he is none other than Dr. Frank Drake. The Drake's equation is very famous in astrobiology.
Just
So I,
spoke about that in the video I just did.
yeah, yes. So I keep meeting our very own Indian cosmonaut. Uh, this is India's first man who went to space. With the Russian program, it was called Salute. Captain,
Yeah.
Group Captain Rakesh Sharma, sir. So he is very senior. Today, I keep meeting him in Pune. He is in Bangalore, but we invite him for our talks, for programs here, and he inspires so many young kids because he is a real life hero for all of us. So this is what we do at Astroedu Pune. I not only popularize and tell them about NASA's missions or ISRO's missions, but we also do some real programs, stargazing and such hands-on experiences and the project competitions, paper presentation and drawing competitions, etc. This is Sir M. Vishveshwaraya, India's first engineer, first generation engineer. So I visited this museum in Bangalore and I received this award, India's first educationist. So I have won many laurels, awards, and rewards. They are a part and parcel of this entire journey. And I have come a long way from 0 kilometers, like I said, in a small, simple laboratory, electronics lab in Pune, to aviation and then space. So literally and figuratively, I have, covered astronomical distance or heights, altitude. And I'm proud of myself, not because I have done anything great, but what I do is like I'm able to touch the lives of so many kids, and I reach out to the youngsters and I train them, I inspire them, and I have myself come a long way in the last dozen years. I mean, I tell my students, they say your journey has been inspirational. So I tell them, you always take the staircase and not elevator to success. And I did not walk on a path created by others. You know, I created my own path. And so awards and rewards, they keep coming, by the way. So this is a national level award at the Institution of Electronics and Telecom Engineers. I received this at Delhi, and he is the scientist. He was ISRO chairman, interim chairman back then, and he's former IET president, and he is also an ISRO scientist. So I have been honored to receive such great awards and mementos from people who have inspired me. And he is none other than Papaji or Shri Chawlaji. He is the father of late Dr. Kalpana Chawla, Indian American astronaut who made it big, and she lost her life in Columbia disaster. So I'm part of their family. I mean, they treat me like he treats me like his daughter. You know, he keeps calling me Kalpana, and he thinks I'm just like her. And
Oh,
yes, it's very touching, to
I
meet
bet.
the family. Yeah. And then, yes, my talks, they take place at many institutions, and from tiny kids to senior citizens. I have addressed many age groups, till date. And yes, through television channels, they invite me for talks and, discussions on various topics. So in this way as well, I'm able to reach out to the common man of India, and who doesn't know about science, but in simple words, I tell them about science and about space science, about astronomy. So this was one of my interviews, you know. Well, this is a young guy, this kid, Hemil Modi. He is a scientist at NASA Ames Research Center, and I mentored him. And he's a great, promising young scientist. And yes, I'm proud of my contribution to this field, because my students, my the kids, they're working at NASA, at European Space Agency, Russia, and of course in India, in IIST, Indian Institute for Space Technology, and some have joined Defense R&D Organization, or India's very own DRDO and ISRO, and nuclear programs as well, and very high profile organizations. My kids, they're placed at so many places, and they come from far and wide. And I look at one thing, common thing, that they have the spark in them. And yes, well, I like to train and mentor them. So I love flying, and I've done thus far only light flying. That's all. So yes, coming to the end of my presentation, he was my mentor, Dr. Kowarikar sir. He was a nuclear physicist, and he motivated and inspired me, and his relentless support and encouragement brought me to this place where I am today. And he is Dr. Kalpana Chawla's father, Papaji. Well, yes, I keep meeting him quite often. And yes, thank you very much. This is, by the way, Dr. Gowarikar sir, my mentor's nephew, and he is a Bollywood filmmaker.
Ah,
He made films like Lagan, Swades, they are Bollywood blockbusters, and he's like a left-handed, belongs to our left-handed fraternity. And he made a movie, by the way, in Bollywood. Like it was about a young space engineer. He is Mohan. He's working with NASA, and then he comes back to India, and then he lives, serving the people, common man of the country. And this is what I do as well. I mean, I visited NASA 6 times in various capacities, various centers. But today I work for my nation, for my country, for my people, for my brothers and sisters of India. And it's a great pleasure and honor to do so. And as a science and technology communicator, I popularize and spread this awareness about science, because in India, science is not so popular. So politics is, and there are many farmers and poor people living in the remotest places. So we are able to reach out to them and popularize science in this way. So yes.
All right, well, that is
Okay.
awesome. What I like is your enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm, you can stop the share, and we should come back to full screen when you do that. Maybe I can do it. I don't know. I think you need to do it from your end.
Okay. So
Do a
my
stop share.
slides.
All right,
Okay.
there we go.
And
There
I'm
we go.
back.
Now we're good.
Yeah. So this is my journey. This has been my long journey, and since childhood, actually, and by brick, and pillar by pillar, I have built up this, you know, my career. And it's not just a career or profession for me; it's a mission in my life. You know.
Well, I
Yes.
kind of felt that way too. And that's what inspired me. I felt like we had a chance for a bright future for humanity, and the space was a centerpiece of that. We've got all our eggs in one basket here on this planet. We need to be a multiplanetary species, just for redundancy and survivability. But space is exploration. It's the future. It's a dream to always have a new frontier, and to go to new places and see new things and have new experiences for humanity. And I think that's exciting. When I was a little kid, we were going to the moon. And then all at once we decided we were just going to have a space shuttle. It was going to go around and around and around in circles around Earth. I thought the space program was over. I thought, well, so what? We've been doing that. That's nothing. And that really broke my heart. That, we're going to the moon. What do we? How it happened? Why are we going back to just going around and around the Earth? That really hurt. But I got this bug for the concept of space settlement, space development, and that gave me a lot of hope for the future. And I thought, this may be a long shot, but it's worth fighting for. And that's why I became a space advocate and went on to become an engineer. I grew up on a farm. I was the first person in my family that went through college. I put myself through college because I had that fire. And you are a person that inspires that kind of fire in people. And the way you do this, you're doing it in your country, and it's great. And your country needs that, especially with all those poor kids out in the farms. But anywhere you go, I know you can light people on fire because you've got that enthusiasm. You can be a positive force in this whole world just because you've got that spark in you, and you share that spark, you share that fire. Because if we work more for hope, I mean, the thing about space is it ends this idea that the whole world is just a zero-sum pie that we have to divide one way or another. There's many more pies out there. There's a lot of pie in the universe. We shouldn't be fighting over the Earth. We ought to be cooperating to build a better future for everybody. But the politicians get so focused on what's in front of them that we have all this fighting and wars. It's a sad thing. It's a very sad thing. We need to rise above that. I do report that kind of stuff a lot on my other channel, just because I tell people that we got to be prepared for the worst. And things like coronal mass ejections you mentioned, which you guys will be studying, it's important to understand that to be able to defend our power grid and harden it. A lot of people haven't done that yet, but hopefully as we learn more about it and get more attention to it, we can have our nations more secure here on Earth and have a bright, prosperous future. And inspiring kids to excel that's the building blocks for that future. We don't go nowhere without the kids, because they're going to build the future. It's theirs. And when we get old, hopefully, we'll be able to ride, that wave of the future they're building. And that's where India really comes ahead. You've got the great demographic of you got so many young people in your country. And so that's why I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yes, so like I said, India with this Indian Space Research Organization's future missions, and very ambitious ones, we are planning to make an impact on this world. And I'm sure we are on the way. And it was, by the way, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir's dream that India will become a future superpower. And when it comes to...
You will. If you set your mind to it. Now, what she just said is, come on. He was the young engineer she showed in the pictures, young man. He became president of India.
That's
And
right.
the current president, Modi, was sitting in the control room. He was sitting in the control room of the lunar lander, Chandrayaan 2, when it was trying to land on the moon. He will sit in the control room of these missions. The president of the nation would be like our president going to mission control in Houston, or going to the launch center in Kennedy, or even payload center here in the Hosc here in Huntsville, Alabama. But that don't happen here. So that just shows India's commitment. The fact that India has a Department of Space.
Yeah. Right.
That shows commitment to future, and the fact that they're wanting to build things indigenously. India people can really spring forward. I mean, India's got all the blocks in the right place now to have an immense future. I hope that you will, do that in a manner that encourages free enterprise, because that is a real engine for the economies and creativity, to give people an incentive to produce. Just look at Singapore today, no natural resources, and their economy is huge, exploding. And you take the nation with the most oil on earth, like Venezuela, and the poorest country. So, keep those kind of things in mind. And if you set up the right social structures, you're laying all the blocks in the right place. I see India just having the brightest future. And knowing
you're right.
Happy, smiling people there like you to inspire people toward that.
Thank you. Thank you for your generous compliments. Yes, you're right, because India believes in spin-off. I mean, NASA does it, all the space agencies do that, but India predominantly, ISRO's, byproducts have been so much, and we have been able to educate people, the huge masses, the huge population. To cater to this much population, it's very challenging, but we do that, and improving agriculture. And like I said, it was Dr. Sarabhai's dream to improve the lifestyle of common man, and that is what space does. It does wonders. And by the way, one thing worth mentioning here at this point is when the pandemic came, and everyone was scared, we were really confused, we did not have vaccine in 2020, but the mission to make vaccine, to develop that in India, indigenous again, that was what Mr. Narendra Modi encouraged, and the doctors, the scientists, they came up with this vaccine, and we have not just been able to do self-sufficient work, but we provided vaccine to so many countries, the South American countries, Brazil and Chile, and some countries even in Africa, the underprivileged ones. So imagine this billions of huge population in India. Each one of us got 2 vaccines and then a booster. And not only that, but we were able to export and help the others, So that is what we believe in, the collaboration. And by the way, even when it comes to collaboration in space sector, ISRO, NASA has a collaboration. India has collaboration with Russia, with European Space Agency, except China. I mean, we have been doing collaborative efforts and partnership. And NASA's and ISRO's joint mission. And also we want to help NASA assist them in any way possible. If India has done this successful mission, then we'll share that data, we'll share our experience. And if we have made some mistakes, then others should learn from our mistakes. So this is what we are very open, and the system is very transparent. That is one thing. And like I said, it's all about now, it is indigenous. So in India now, we have so many startups coming up, like there's NoPo Technologies, there's Antriksh and Pixel, and some such small units. And the startups get some assistance subsidy from the government of India, or the local government, the state government as well. So what we are trying to do is encourage the youngsters. So instead of working for an organization like my generation earlier, youngsters were like, I want to work with Tata, with ISRO, or with this organization with the big name. But today we say, let's be self-employed. So self-employment is something that we are now championing. And that is precisely why we have so many startups now. And
There you go.
trust me,
And
yes,
that is the spirit of entrepreneurship that I was talking about earlier. And that's
exactly.
where you have the creativity. So that's just another reason to see and believe you're going to have a lot of bright stars shining and rising up from India.
Yes, that's right. So innovations, R&D, all this takes place, and out of the box thinking, engineers do that only when they are working for themselves. That is what has created this, inspired this drive. And I myself tell my students, the kids, that yes, you need to be like any scientist, the scientific temperament, and you need to discover or invent something. So if not that, at least some innovation. So during the pandemic, when kids were a bit, some had left hopes that there was a gap in the education, and some were scared. The youngsters, they lost track. So I was encouraging them, I motivated them, saying, look, what Isaac Newton did in England was during epidemic, he was sent back to his hometown, and he was reading a book sitting below that apple tree. The apple fell, and look, gravity was discovered. So this is, look at it as a scope, as an opportunity to discover something, to create something. So even if you're alone and you're isolated, do something unique, think out of the box. So my kids have done great jobs, so like they have done some unique projects, tiny.
Well, to put things in perspective, all orbital dynamics started in an apple orchard.
Yeah. Exactly. That's true.
So, we always need to have a little humility as we reach for the stars. Keep our feet grounded in the earth as we reach. And by the way, I'm a worm farmer, so my feet are in the earth as I still reach for the stars.
Oh, wow. Nice. By the way, my forefathers, like my great grandfather, my grandfather, they were farmers. So we had this huge agricultural land, even on the highway to Goa. So my dad had this agricultural land, but so like we are into industry. Interesting.
Well, I have been parlaying this into space habitat design and space habitat concepts, which I've been working on that kind of stuff all my life too, or at least all my adult life. And you talked about a cloud city. I've got a concept for space colonies that would float in the atmosphere of Venus, and it's easier to settle Venus with those things than it will be Mars by a long shot.
Wow, interesting. And by the way, I'm sure I'll send my kids, the students who are in the US, they are pursuing MS. One is in Purdue University, like I said, one is in Florida, someone in, I guess, Georgia, and one is joining very soon. She'll be coming over to Penn State University. So I'll give them your address and they'll come for some internship or some, hands-on experience. That's interesting. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I tell you what, and be sure if you get over to the United States again, you've been to Huntsville before.
Yes.
Look me up.
Oh, sure. I will meet. We'll meet next time I come over, because I have this visa for many years,
And we've at least passed each other in the halls. If you were to the 2009 ISDC, who knows, we might have talked to each other. I did talk to, that's one of the places that had a lot of the young Indian students that I talked to. So we may have spoken then. I don't know. I had short hair and not such a beard back in the day.
Oh, so I may not have recognized you. I'm
Exactly.
sure. Yes. And by the way, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, sir, he had given a talk about space solar power, and he was the recipient of the prestigious Von Braun Award at the National Space Society.
Yeah, that's the Ferry rocket and the Saturn V rocket.
Wow.
Von Braun Award. This is the award I got at the previous ISDC in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
For space
Good.
entrepreneurship, I developed hybrid rockets and
Great.
launched altitude balloons, made the Guinness
Wow.
Book of World Records. I started as a club project to build rockets that could hit space, and I spun a company
Oh,
out.
wow.
So,
Kudos.
you know, that's why, you know, I grew up on a farm, but I had this dream for space and science and technology, and I still farm, and I still am involved in space and science and technology. So it's
Yes.
doable. And I really salute you for what you're doing for inspiring the kids. You're building the groundwork for a bright future. So you keep doing that. And I see you have several other intersections of interest that I have. We shall do another interview if you're interested in the not too distant future.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, we'll meet once I'll come over to Huntsville and see you then.
Very good. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut down the recording. Hang on for a minute. All right, everyone. I really thank y'all for joining and watching us. I know we've gone over an hour, about an hour and a half, but I really am impressed with what the people of India are accomplishing. I am impressed with what Leena is doing to inspire the young people, which is very crucial to making a bright future here. So I hope everybody will give this video a like and share it, thumbs up and share it, because this is the kind of future we need. We need a future from people that have a good heart and that who want to build a better future for humanity. And Leena is definitely one of those good souls. So thank y'all for watching, everyone, and have an awesome day or night.